Welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Rita Enum coming to you live from Uyo. Let's take a look at the headlines. The federal government describes corruption as a threat to national security and border governance. INEC recognizes Wike-backed PDP faction. Plus, man sentenced to life in prison for plotting to kill Trump in 2024. Detail of these stories and more in a moment. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned. We begin the news at 4 from the national scene where President Bola Tinubu has ordered the immediate deployment of an army battalion to Kaiama local government area of Kwara state following a deadly overnight attack on Woro community by suspected Boko Haram terrorists. The directive, which also includes the appointment of a field commander and the immediate commencement of a military operation tagged Operation Savannah Shield, was disclosed by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga. The President said the battalion would spearhead efforts to contain the attackers and protect vulnerable communities in the area. Tinubu condemned the attack, describing it as cowardly and beastly, saying the assailants deliberately targeted defenseless civilians. The President also condoled with the families of the victims as well as the people and government of Kwara State and prayed for the repose of the souls of those who had been killed. Away from that, the federal government has described corruption as an existential threat to Nigeria's national security, border governance and migration management, warning that administrative failures within key agencies create dangerous avenues for transnational crimes. Comptroller General of the Nigerian Immigration Service, Kemi Nandab, declared this today in Abuja during the inauguration of a service's anti-corruption and transparency unit at 2 desk officers. She emphasized that the fight against graft is inseparable from the agency's primary mandate of securing Nigeria's borders, adding that corruption is a major administrative failure and an existential threat to national security, economic development and Nigeria's international standing. According to her, these failings erode public confidence, weaken the rule of law and create avenues for transnational crimes. Meanwhile, the federal government has approved the central placement of nurse interns as part of efforts to address gaps in Nigeria's health workforce and ease difficulties faced by newly qualified nurses in securing internship placements. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Ali Patay, disclosed this in Abuja at the official launch and distribution of supports received by the Nursing and Midwifery Council of Nigeria, NMCN, from the Gates Foundation, United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, World Health Organization, WHO, and the Health Information Systems Advisory, HISA. Patay said the approval was intended to complement the existing number of nurses and strengthen service delivery, particularly in maternal and newborn health. He noted that the role of midwives in reducing maternal mortality cannot be overemphasized, adding that shortages are most evident in rural and underserved communities where access to skilled care remains limited. And from the Red Chamber, the Senate has denied a report that it rejected the electronic transmission of election results during consideration of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill. The clarification came from the President of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, shortly after the upper chamber passed the bill, following a marathon session lasting about 4 to 5 hours. Consideration of the contentious amendment to Clause 60, subsection 3 of the bill began at about 2 p.m. and stretched until 6:26 p.m. p.m., fueling speculations online that lawmakers had voted against mandatory electronic transmission of results. However, news made the rounds that the Senate shot down a proposal that would have compelled presiding officers of the Independent National Electoral Commission to transmit results electronically from each polling unit to the INEC Results Viewing (IREF) and its portal in real time. After signing and stamping the prescribed result forms, according to the reports, the Senate was said to have instead retained the existing provision of the Electoral Act, which states that the presiding officers shall transfer the results, including the total number of accredited voters and the results of the ballot, in a manner as prescribed by the Commission. Meanwhile, Akpabio insisted that the interpretation was misleading, stressing that the Senate did not remove electronic transmission from the law. Meanwhile, the Senate has raised concerns over worsening insecurity in Katsina State following fresh bandit attacks that reportedly left at least 35 people dead within 24 hours. The resolutions followed a motion of urgent public importance on the recent ambush of operatives of the Nigerian Police Mobile Force in Bakori local government area, during which 3 policemen were killed and 2 others critically injured. Leading the debate, the sponsor of the motion, Senator Mohammed Dandutse, said the attacks occurred across several local government areas, with 24 people killed in Faskari, 8 in Dandume, 2 in Fantua, and 1 in Kankara. Dandutse warned that the sustained violence was disrupting farming activities, noting that more than 50,000 farmlands have been abandoned due to insecurity, posing a threat to food production and livelihoods in the state. After deliberations, the Senate adopted the motion and urged the President to immediately implement the planned establishment of a military barracks in the affected part of Katsina State. The upper chamber also called the Inspector General of Police to equip the newly established police squadron in the area with at least 3 armored personnel carriers to enhance operations, and urged security agencies to sustain coordinated actions to flush out criminal elements. And now to the Green Chambers, where the House of Representatives has constituted a conference committee to work with the Senate Committee to harmonize the Electoral Act ahead of the 2027 general elections. While the House passed the Act on the 23rd of December 2025, the Senate yesterday passed the Act with significant changes, including reducing the period for issuance of the electoral timetable from 360 days to 180 days. Spokesman of the House, Akitude Rotimi, said the conference committee was set up in accordance with legislative procedure for harmonizing areas of difference between the versions of the bill passed by both chambers of the National Assembly. According to him, the decision is contained in an internal correspondence signed by the clerk to the House of Representatives, Dr. Yahaya Danzaria, conveying the directive of the leadership of the House. In politics, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has tactically recognized the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike-backed National Caretaker Committee of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, led by Abdurrahman Mohammed. The duo of Mohammed and the acting National Secretary, Senator Samuel Anyawu, are part of party leaders attending the first quarterly meeting between the Commission and political party leaders. The meeting is meant for only national chairmen and national secretaries of all registered parties recognized by the Commission. Recall that the Federal High Court in Ibadan directed the Commission to recognize the Abdurrahman Mohammed-led Caretaker Committee as the genuine leadership of the party. On electoral matters, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has announced the registration of 2 new political parties, bringing the number of parties in the country to 21. The National Chairman of INEC, Professor Joash Amupiton, who announced this at the first quarterly meeting with political party leaders, listed the new parties as the Democratic Leadership Alliance and the National Democratic Congress. Professor Amupiton said, while only the Democratic Leadership Alliance met all conditions for the registration of political parties, the National Democratic Congress is bringing registered in obedience to the judgment of the Federal High Court in Lokoja. And now to Africa, where Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has met Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in Cairo, sealing a raft of partnership deals and signaling a united front on regional crisis in Iran, Sudan and Gaza. Reports say relations between Cairo and Ankara have thawed after nearly a decade of estrangement that followed Sisi's removal of President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. Egypt and Turkey now form half of the mediating bloc for the current Gaza truce, back the Sudanese army in its war with paramilitary forces, and share increasingly convergent positions across the region. Sisi said they agreed on the need to implement all phases of the U.S.-brokered Gaza truce agreement, rejecting any attempt to circumvent or obstruct the implementation of President Trump's peace plan. And right on the foreign scene, the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed California to use a new electoral map designed to give Democrats 5 more congressional seats, improving the party's chances of regaining control of the U.S. House of Representatives from President Donald Trump's Republicans in November midterm elections. Reports say the justices denied the Californian Republic and its party's request to block California's map, which was endorsed by voters last year as a counterweight to a similar effort in Texas, aimed at giving Republicans 5 more U.S. House seats. The Supreme Court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority in December, allowed Texas to use its redrawn map for this year's voting. And still on the foreign scene, a man who plotted to assassinate President Donald Trump at his Florida golf course in September 2024, 2 months before the U.S. election, was sentenced to life in prison. Ryan Routh, 59, was convicted in September of trying to kill then-candidate Trump, the second attempt on the billionaire's life in the run-up to the vote that brought him back to the White House. According to reports from the courtroom, Judge Eileen Cannon handed down the sentence of life plus 70 years after a 90-minute hearing, saying it was to protect the public from future crime committed by Routh. Recall that Routh was arrested on September 15, 2024, after a Secret Service agent saw the barrel of a rifle poking from the bushes on the perimeter of the West Palm Beach golf course, where Trump was playing around ahead of the November elections. And still to come in the news. Super Eagles goalkeeper Nwabali agrees contract termination with Chippa United. Stay tuned for detail of this story and even more stories to come in a moment. Many thanks for staying tuned and welcome back to Spectrum News within the hour. Going now to our business news, the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adegboyega Oyetola, has sanctioned the move to digitize Nigeria's fish import licenses. In a statement, the minister stressed that the move is a landmark policy aimed at enhancing transparency, efficiency and regulatory oversight within the nation's fisheries sector. Oyetola has, consequently, directed the Department of Fisheries and Aquaculture to expedite action towards the swift implementation of the digital platform, signaling the federal government's renewed commitment to modernizing marine administration while strengthening domestic fish production capacity. Reports say the initiative aligns with President Bola Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda, which prioritizes economic diversification, food security, job creation and institutional reform as center pillars of national development. In health, the Nigerian Cancer Society, NCS, has urged governments at all levels to prioritize rural communities and internally displaced persons camps in cancer interventions across the country. The society noted that it had become imperative for the governments to look inward and include the vulnerable in their interventions to prevent and curb the cancer burden in Nigeria. The NCS explained that the most people who present cancer cases late are people in rural communities, adding that the move would help early screening and treatment. In a statement yesterday to commemorate the 2026 World Cancer Day, the NCS President, Professor Abidemi Omonisi, said the insurgency in the northern part of the country has displaced many Nigerians, adding that those in IDP camps are often not considered for cancer interventions. And now to sports, where Super Eagles striker Samuel Chukwueze has been nominated for Fulham's Goal of the Month award for January. Chukwueze was nominated for his goal in Fulham's 2-1 win over Brighton and Hove Albion and has registered 5 goals and 2 assists in 11 league appearances for the Cottagers. And still in sports, Super Eagles goalkeeper Stanley Nwabali has left Chippa United after 4 years with the club. This was confirmed in an official club statement today. According to the South African club, Nwabali submitted a transfer request asking to leave. The 29-year-old only put pen to paper on a 3-year contract extension deal in 2024. Chippa United said they have agreed to grant Nwabali's release and wished him success in the next chapter of his career. On our entertainment news, Nollywood actress Angela Okorie has publicly apologized to her colleague Mercy Johnson. Recall that Angela Okorie was first arrested by the operatives of the Nigerian Police Force Cybercrime Center, Abuja, at her Lagos residence on January 27, 2026, over accusations of cyberbullying Mercy Johnson. In a video message shared online, Angela Okorie addressed Mercy Johnson, apologizing for the online bullying. And that's all we have for you on the news at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. I am Rita Inung. Enjoy the rest of your day.